Hi. It's widely believed that post-COVID-19 economy will have an overbearing imprint of new habits shaped up by new regulations, which would be based on close contact interactions, tighter travel restrictions, and new hygiene norms. The current disruption will change the way we eat, live, work, shop, socialize, interact, etc. in the short run and in the immediate future. Some of it may change permanently, some may evolve further, and few may reverse back to its original. For instance, some of our work habits will change and work from home in some industries will become an accepted feature. The changes can be far reaching and maybe the whole concept of organization and permanent employment as we know today can undergo a change. There can be Uberization of work where people with the required specific skill sets get together to accomplish a specific project and the engagement can get over with the project itself. A lot of companies and industries that were dying a natural slow death due to digital disruption will meet their fate faster, resulting in massive bankruptcies and mass scale of unemployment. This massive unemployment can also raise new opportunities for people dealing with reskilling, managing anxiety, and imparting wellness. We already have seen a proliferation of yoga teachers, psychologists, trainers, etc. on digital platforms like Zoom during lockdown itself. Some of the trends like digitization of currency, online shopping will get accelerated as people get used to enabling its faster adaptation. The education industry will change for sure as digital adaptation will make it possible to access high quality teachers to masses at a fraction of cost, thus enabling equal opportunities to all. Who knew Corona could be a massive equalizer as well? Companies will accelerate adaptation of digital technologies, innovate, adapt new models, new products to build efficiency and in their pursuit of making themselves viable again. In a nutshell, the digital revolution, which was anyways poised to bring in quantum change in commerce and society, will now become indispensable in adapting to the new low touch economy. Pre-COVID, rising nationalism was seen everywhere and in everything. The concerns over globalization, unchecked capitalism, immigration, unemployment, income disparity were affecting voter choices and government policies as seen in choice of leadership in US, Germany, Italy, Austria, in Europe, Philippines, India, Indonesia, in Asia. COVID-19 has further strengthened these nationalist forces as trade barriers got established quickly due to shutdown of borders, restrictions imposed by respective government on exports of pharmaceutical and healthcare essential, thus exposing the country's vulnerabilities. Given the after effects of COVID and expected economic downturn, the seething anger frustration amongst people is palpable. The ensuing unemployment, feeling of helplessness amongst nation and their citizens will now define the popular narrative and political rhetoric in the immediate and near future. Thus, in the short term, we'll see a push for economic self-reliance, greater calls for setting up domestic industries and increased barriers to free trade. The governments will evolve ways and means to secure health and become self-reliant or contractually assure themselves of critical health services. However, the other measures of trade protectionism may remain a mere rhetoric and political statements or may get severely diluted in medium to long run as private capital will only flow to the most efficient destination. While the concept of capitalism may get fine-tuned to address its shortcoming, however, it will get strengthened and come back stronger globally. This is only natural as the core pillar of fourth generation industrial revolution, which we popularly know as digital revolution, has no boundaries and is truly global. There is also a lot of talk and hope in India about shifting of industries from China into India. I would not be in a hurry to assume that it will happen anytime soon. The companies in the first place went to China for a reason. China offered them massive supply chain efficiencies, labor productivity, policy ease, world class infrastructure, economies of scale, and people efficiency. In fact, some of the advantages that it had as an investment destination may have amplified, and its image as an efficient nation would have got boosted by the way it has managed to control COVID. The biggest thing that worked for us was anticipating the lockdown itself. Around mid March, we spent 3 full days anticipating and preparing for this eventuality. We strengthened our infrastructure and put processes in place enabling work from home. The kind of lockdown that we have now was unthinkable then, and a lot of people in the senior management were thinking and looking at it as a wasteful exercise and loss of billing opportunities as we were in middle of critical year-end deadlines. Post lockdown, we were quickly able to get back to the near normal productivity that we had, thus reducing the business impact to us significantly. Secondly, we quickly created new modules within our products around social distancing. For our industry leading transaction banking product, we came out with a self onboarding module and we were able to sell it to most of our existing customers, thus creating new opportunities for ourselves. Thirdly, anticipating a post-COVID world, we took a hard look at our portfolio and realigned our sales efforts to produce to products and opportunities we believe will survive and grow in the new low-touch economy. It was a massive exercise convincing salespeople to abandon opportunities that they've been working on for months and in some cases years and focus on new areas and opportunities. The realignment and new focus has begun to yield results as seen by some of the new inquiries and order flow. We are looking at the biggest recession in over 300 years, and thus it becomes a challenge to predict the economic downturn and its after effects. A lot of economists expect a U or a V-shaped recovery, but given the massive scale of anticipated bankruptcies and ensuing unemployment, I see a more of a L-shaped recovery. Companies cannot be turned unbankrupt, and also it takes a while to get employment back, as that requires a lot of reskilling and also new job creations take a longer time. Thus, in my view, the struggle with the economy this time is going to be longer and harder. The severity may be unknown, but the principles of overcoming the crisis may not differ. Firstly, in the immediate future, ensure survival by focusing on liquidity. Talk to your customers, ensure liquidity even at the cost of margins. Renegotiate your obligations. Take your lenders, bankers, stakeholders, including your teams and employees, into confidence and share your vision and your ability to overcome the crisis. Take a hard look at salary and non-salary costs and optimize them quickly. As Churchill said after World War II, never let a good crisis go to waste. Even adversity provides an opportunity to take a harder look at businesses and involves reevaluating customers, products, teams, markets, geographies. Objectively understand which of them are really profitable, which of them are an investment, and which of them are losing money. Realign the businesses to these harsh realities. The businesses should emerge stronger, leaner, and fitter out of the crisis in the long run. And don't be afraid to take hard decisions, as it would mean abandoning some capital projects midway, writing down some work in progress, pruning down some innovation, and taking the ensuing financial losses. Most importantly, get your senior management to participate in this journey along with you. Not only they will contribute with ideas to increase efficiencies, come up with new product opportunities, but also with thoughts on how cost rationalization and reduction. Thank you.